this is 9.1, which is a huge vocabulary lesson. So just know that a point has no length, no width, and no height. And space is in all directions indefinitely. Think about being in outer space, no matter where you look, up, down, left, right, diagonal, it doesn't matter. It goes on forever and ever in all directions if you're in space. A segment is a piece of a line that has two endpoints. A ray has one endpoint, and it heads in one direction forever and ever. Think of like a ray of sunshine. It starts at the sun and heads in one direction. Okay? A line heads in both directions forever and ever, and we use these arrows to indicate that it keeps on going. Okay? A straight angle is an angle that makes a straight line. So there's a straight angle. It makes a straight line. An obtuse angle is bigger than 180 degrees. So an example of an obtuse angle, no, bigger than 90 degrees. No, I haven't had anything to drink today. So an obtuse angle is bigger than 90 degrees. So an obtuse angle might look like this, where this angle is bigger than 90 degrees, or bigger than the corner of a piece of paper. Okay? An acute angle is less than 90 degrees. Something like this might be acute, where the corner of a piece of paper wouldn't fit inside that angle. So these are some examples of a straight angle, obtuse angle, and acute angle. Parallel lines are lines that never intersect, like railroad tracks, like this. These are parallel. They never intersect, right? And intersecting lines, of course, touch at some point, and parallel lines will never ever touch. So the difference between parallel and intersecting is these will touch, and these will never touch. Okay? They're going to give you some drawings, and they want you to name the angle. So you can use 3 letters to name the angle, and this is the symbol for angle. So you could say angle A, B, C. Because to draw it, I would go from A to B to C. You could also say angle CBA, because I could start at C and go to B and go to A. But those are the only 2 combinations. You cannot name this angle starting or ending with B, because you wouldn't be able to draw it in consecutive segments if you started with B. B is the vertex of the angle, and the vertex must be the middle letter. Okay? This is a ray. In order to name this ray, you tell the viewer or the reader where it starts. This one starts at A, so that better be the first letter that you write. It heads in the direction of B, so that will be the second letter you write, and you put a little ray above it so that I know, as a viewer, that you're talking about ray AB that starts at A and heads in that direction, or the direction of B. Complementary versus supplementary. Complementary angles add to be 90 degrees, and supplementary angles add to be 180 degrees. You will need to know this for future classes. I remember that C comes before S in the alphabet, and 90 comes before 180 when I count. So complementary talks about angles that add to be 90. Supplementary talks about angles that add to be 180. So if they ask for the supplement of 62, they want to know what's the other angle that makes this and that mystery angle add to be 180. 62 plus what gives you 180? So you just subtract. 180 subtract 62 is 120 minus 2, 118. Okay, if they're asking for the complement of an angle, you figure out what can I add to this to get 90, because complements add to be 90. So 21 plus what mystery number gives you 90? Is that 69? 69, 79, 89, 90. Yeah. Okay, so there's the vocab lesson. And then I'm going to teach you some examples and then a whole nother vocabulary lesson that I just didn't have space for up here on my mini board. Okay? All right. So, if I give you this drawing, there's an angle and it's cut into 2 angles. And if I told you that this is 44 degrees and I want to know the measure of this, but I want to know the measure of this, and I tell you that the whole thing is 100 degrees. Well, you could say, I know that 44 degrees plus x degrees equals 100 because I was told this whole thing was 100. You have to be told that. So you can solve. Subtract 44 from both sides, and this is gone, so now I know x equals 100 minus 44, 60, 50, 56 degrees. This would have to be 56 so that these add to be 100, okay? Also, there's a concept called vertical angles. This is another vocabulary word. Vertical angles. Vertical angles are opposite each other in an x. So these two are vertical angles because they're opposite each other in the x. There is a theorem that says vertical angles are congruent, meaning they're the same measure. So if that's 140 degrees, guess what? I know that this also has to be 140 degrees because opposite angles are equal. By the way, and you'll be asked this, you can also tell me the measure of this one because that's a straight angle. And straight angles add to be 180. So this plus this have to equal 180. Anything that makes a straight line adds to be 180 degrees. So what can I add to that to get a total of 180? It would have to be 40 degrees. These two add to be 180. By the way, these are vertical angles. And vertical angles are congruent. So if that's 40, then this is also 40 degrees. So in an X shape, I can give you one angle measure and you can come up with all the rest. Okay? All right, the last bit of this section talks about two parallel lines. We draw little angles like that to show you they're parallel. And a line that slashes through them both, we call that a transversal. So if I have two parallel lines in a transversal, there's lots that you can tell me. So let me just talk about the vocab for a minute. Okay? The three vocabulary words you're going to be responsible for are alternate interior angles, and I have abbreviated alternate interior angles, alternate exterior angles, and corresponding angles. Okay, so I think of this as two pieces of bread, and the meat is on the inside, and these guys are on the outside. So when I talk about interior angles, you should only be talking to me about the stuff on the inside of my pieces of bread. 3, 4, 5, and 6 are the only interior angles. If I talk about exterior angles, I want to be talking about just the angles on the outside of my bread. 1, 2, and 7, 8 are exterior angles. Okay? So alternate means alternating sides. So if this is on the left side of my transversal and that's on the right side of my transversal, then those are alternating. So let's mix those two definitions. If I'm asking for alternate interior angles, then I need angles that are on the inside of my sandwich that are on opposite sides of the transversal. For example, 3 and 6 are alternate interior angles. Angles 3 and 6. Angles 4 and 5 are also alternate interior angles. Angle 4 and angle 5 are also alternate interior angles. Okay, so I have two sets of alternate interior angles. Let's talk about alternate exterior angles. Remember, those are these guys. So 1 and 8, angle 1 and angle 8 are alternate exterior because they're on the exterior and they're on opposite sides, right? And 7 and 2 are also alternating. 7 and 2 are also alternate exterior angles, okay? All right, corresponding angles are angles that are in the same position. So if I'm looking at this group of numbers, angle 2 is in the top right. If I look at this group of numbers, angle 6 is in the top right. So if they're in the same position, we call those corresponding angles. So angle 2 and angle 6 are corresponding angles because they're both in the top right. So let's find some other corresponding angles. Number 4, angle 4 is in the bottom right. So what angle is in the bottom right here? Angle 8. So angle 4 and angle 8 are also corresponding. Angle 4 and angle 8 are also corresponding. Angle 1 is in the top left and angle 5 is in the top left, and since they share the same position, angle 1 and angle 5 are corresponding. And the last set of corresponding would be 3 and 7. Angle 3 and angle 7 are corresponding angles. Okay? If you have parallel lines and a transversal, then alternate interior angles are congruent or equal. Alternate exterior angles are also congruent, exactly equal. And corresponding angles are also congruent. So if I told you one measure in here, let's say I told you this one was 60 degrees. You can find every other measure here because angle 1, let's just say I want to know this one, angle 1. Well, these two, if you can cover up the rest of the picture, form a straight line. And remember, straight lines add to be 180. So 60 plus what number equals 180? So this would have to be 120 degrees so that they add to be a straight line. Okay? What if I asked you to find this angle 5? Angle 5 and angle 1 are corresponding, which means they're equal. So if 1 is 120, then 5 is also 120 degrees. And last one I'm going to ask you for is angle 6. How can we find angle 6? Well, angle 6 is in the same position as that. They're both in the top right, and corresponding angles are equal. So if that's 60, then this is also 60 degrees. Okay? So you can use the fact that these are equal and those are equal, those are equal and those are equal to solve for missing angles. All right, so that's 9.1.